To start, Elon Musk says that he is arguing over how many bots there are on Twitter right now. At this point, he asserts that counting bots is impossible, that others can't understand it, and that you'll need magic, like alchemy or witchcraft, to solve it. Elon explains how it's possible to approve 1,000 accounts, and then, in essence, determine the number of bots. Therefore, real people are what Twitter users truly require. Stick with 1-to-1 instead of 1,000-to-1, as selling a single toaster to 1,000 bots isn't likely to happen. Just one buyer would be able to purchase it, but that buyer stands in for 1,000 others. Therefore, it's unfair, and it could be even more unfair in light of the political ramifications of having a large number of bot farms supporting politicians with a specific political leaning. By flooding it with pro- or anti-campaign rhetoric, you are essentially stifling free speech. So you've got a major bot problem, and Elon Musk says it looks silly. It's not the same as atomic splitting. We should be able to address this very fast, just as Twitter should be able to tell us how many bots there are. It is beyond unreasonable for Twitter to claim that the number of real humans is over 95%, Elon Musk stated, adding, "Does anyone actually have that experience?" The audience burst out laughing. He estimates that there are 4 to 5 times as many bots as Twitter has reported in its public filings. This means that Twitter's income might be 20% lower. As a result, there is a 20% discount. If you valued it at $54, it would be $10.80. Twitter has certainly lost much more than that, but that's because the transaction will not go through if Twitter comes out and becomes complacent. Consider how many shareholder lawsuits they'd face if it was discovered that their revenue had been exaggerated by 20%. However, Elon Musk believes that he has the most liked tweet internationally, and it's the one that has 4.7 million likes. And the tweet was next time buying Coca-Cola to put the cocaine back in. Elon suggested that if the public wants this, they should go back to Coca-Cola's beginnings. He was joking, but he wondered how can a tweet like that represent only 2 to 2.5% of the overall user base of Twitter. So this is where Elon Musk feels it should have a greater ratio. There may be a cause behind this. Only roughly 5 to 10% of video watchers actually click the like or dislike button, but they still watch the video. So there will be a separation between clicking on the video and seeing it, which you don't really notice since it's more like an impression meter on Twitter. It's tough to determine if someone read or if they were scrolling and glanced away before returning to scrolling, so it's difficult to gauge those kinds of impressions and how many people truly care to touch the like button. Maybe just 1% of you done trillionialized Twitter is supposed to know, but they don't appear to. Elon Musk is upset by all this uncertainty. He talks about how we should have the open source algorithm, how in the end he wants the data, and that the more questions he asks, the more concerned he gets. That was in fact a quotation from him. He reacts to the thought that he's pursuing a right-wing coup here, as that's how the extreme left characterizes the arrangement. Elon also mentions how he may judge adverts if they are impression-driven and bots generate many impressions. How is this fair to businesses wanting to promote their brands? So he's really building this contrast here. This isn't even to touch on yet. The insurance industry, which is exceedingly inefficient. Elon questions why you have to pay 30 to 40% of your payment on a lease for a car for insurance and then not get rewarded for driving better. He stated that if you're 20 years old, you get destroyed for being 20 and obtaining insurance just because you're 20. Statistically, 20 years old. Drive less awful. But if you're a good driver, or you're driven to drive properly because you're viewing your safety score in real time, you're getting a lower insurance price. Well now, not only do they promote better driving, but they can also give lower insurance to the folks who are less of a risk. Let's moving on to the most often asked question, will the Twitter transaction close? He says it depends at this stage, and he's waiting for a reasonable explanation from the spam accounts. He believes that Twitter is refusing to educate him since it is a hard process, ideology that only a few people understand. Could the deal be done at a cheaper price? He asks at this point, and he says that it's not out of the question. However, he doesn't trillion imply that he's bargaining. The people on stage from the podcast hint that now sounds like an ideal moment to bargain. For example, if I'm a home buyer and I'm told the property has 5% termites, but it has 90% termites, the house is worth less. Then in that situation, you're not purchasing a home. Instead, you're buying a termite. So, a little bit of this stuff from engineers about beginning over and simply doing things. Elon is currently thinking about how he might attract the top engineers. My default instinct is to start from the beginning, Elon stated. SpaceX started from scratch, while Tesla started from scratch with roughly 5 people. So obviously, Twitter plummeted from like 5% to like 8% on the day. Then he got SpaceX, whose objective is to make life on planetary bodies. He talks about how we can build satellites on the moon or in faraway regions or bigger telescopes to observe the planet a little bit better. He then also noted that California has gone from being the land of opportunity to become the land of taxation, overregulation, and litigation. He said this is not a good scenario. It took 18 months to erect giga taxes, which are 3 to 4 times the size of the Pentagon in California. If we're trying to build this, I'll still be waiting for permits. Elon also argued that citizens must adjust to desire this, albeit there must be a greater than zero likelihood that Republicans would win considering California is already a one-party state. He also cited China, saying even if you stuck a gun to Gavin Newsom's head to create a Tesla plant, he couldn't do it too many litigators, too much regulation, and that's why people are leaving. Then he speaks about recessions, which aren't always a negative thing. In a boom, everyone receives money like a fool. As a result, you get a misallocation of capital with individuals spending money on items they don't actually need. So a recession is an economic enema, akin to when you clean out your house and don't know where the sun shines. Let's analyze the situation of Carvana. They just lay off 1,200 persons, accounting for 9% of its sales staff, because people spend money like crazy during a boom and don't know that good times don't last forever. For example, supposing you were intending to buy a plane, but then learned that there's a chance of a recession next year, and you're not about to put money in an asset. When consumers start tightening their belts again, that can potentially lose half of their worth, and you'll be bankrupt. Remember to pay your taxes and preserve the base so you don't get screwed. If you are caught all on margin or a speculative trade and all aim on speculation, this is highly perilous. So Elon Musk believes we probably are in a recession, that things may likely get worse and things could get worse for another 12 to 18 months. Most people believe that we'll be in misery for at least another year, maybe until 2024 or perhaps 2025. This seems to be taking a long time. And then you remember back to the dot-com bubble, which took us from 2000 to 2003 to hit the bottom. Moreover, Elon Musk talks immigration and how everyone who wants to work hard in the United States should be able to do so. For example, why don't they let someone in who wants to work really hard here and waives all of their benefits? People who have gone through this often ask why recruiting someone from another countries is so tough. Why is it important to go through a 2-year application procedure and get a PhD? Then Elon Musk claims the apparent explanation for inflation is the government printed 1 million more money than it had. And if the velocity of money is held constant, you have inflation. Then he explains a little bit about China. And the major argument is that the Chinese people have a strong work ethic. When asked about the difference between Americans and Chinese, he answered, "Look, Americans, we had to amp up our game. Tesla's got a robust work ethic and personnel that power a successful company. But the work ethic in China is excelled on balance by the Tesla China crew. In other words, the work ethic in the US is outperformed by the Tesla China crew on average." He further highlighted that this does not suggest that there aren't hard-working folks at Tesla in America. He's merely expressing the facts.